I bought a pair of fake glasses. I'm sure you who wear glasses think it's dumb, but those of us that don't need them are wearing them anyway. You know, I have heard from some people who said they were bullied for their glasses. They're glad that it's coming back in fashion so that it's seen as a cool thing and not as like an uncool thing. I've always thought glasses are pretty cool, by the way. I wanted to try doing my hair differently today too. I mean, this entire look, I like to call it the hipster English major look. Although I don't know if I call myself a hipster yet. I'm definitely on my way there though, apparently. Look at me. Is it crooked? It might be crooked. That would make me sad. I don't know if I have the right kind of hair for this style, but I'm kind of bored of just middle parting, so anyway, I'll stop talking about myself. I'm sorry. Hello everyone! So I wanted to film a video and I didn't know what to film, so I asked for suggestions on Twitter and someone told me to do my favorite underrated books, so that's what I'm going to do today. It was hard for me to think of some because for the most part I read a lot of the hyped books because I just want to be in on the conversation. I don't want to know what the book's about, and generally the hyped books I'll read because I've heard a lot of talk about them and I'll know if I like them or not. Anyways, I did manage to come up with kind of a list of a bunch of underrated books that I like and want to share with you. There's no order, it's just a bunch of books that I like. Of course, what constitutes an underrated book is different for everybody. For me, it's just books that I haven't heard a lot about. I haven't seen a lot of hype on the internet about them. But they might be fairly well known and they don't get as much hype as they should. So the first book is Under a Painted Sky by Stacey Lee. Now I hadn't heard anything about this book before I bought it, and I just kind of bought it on a whim because it was like on sale at the bookstore, and I read the synopsis of it and thought, oh, this sounds kind of interesting. It's actually really good. I mentioned it before and it's very interesting. It's about these two girls. One of the girls is Chinese and the other one is a runaway slave. They disguise themselves as boys and travel along the Oregon Trail to basically kind of escape the lives they have and try to get somewhere better. And it's really interesting because I don't know a lot about that time in history, so it was interesting to read a book about that, first of all, and also I just really fell in love with the two main characters. They're really great. So yeah, definitely read this one. Next one is a series, and it is the Ascendants trilogy by Jennifer Nielsen. I've talked about the series before too. And I think it's underrated because it's a middle grade book technically. But I'd say it's on the same level as Harry Potter and Percy Jackson in that it's technically a middle grade book, but you can enjoy it if you're older than like 9 or 12. Basically there's this kingdom and the prince has gone missing, been missing for a very long time. So this nobleman in the court gathers a bunch of like poor orphan boys and is trying to decide which one of them will be a fill-in for the prince. So basically he tries to find a false prince, which is the title of the first book. And yeah, it's very interesting in that way because he just gets these boys and tries to teach them how to act like a prince, and he's gonna pick one of them to be a stand-in. The trilogy is really great. It's weird that it's a middle grade book because I feel like it feels more like a YA. It's just really good. I like it a lot. The next one's also a series, and it's the Gallagher Girls series by Ali Carter. I don't know if a lot of people have read these or if it's just like a thing you read when you're like in middle school again. I actually think it's in the YA section, so it's not even like a middle grade book. What am I talking about? But I don't see a lot of hype about them online, so I just want to shout them out here. The short of it is, this is a series about a spy academy for girls. I don't know if you need any more description than that, but that was right away what hooked me. I said before, I really love school settings. So this was just really interesting to me. I mean, teenage spies, what more do you want? I think there's 6 books in this series, and they're all pretty short books, so it doesn't feel like you've been reading it forever, but it's long enough that you do get attached to the characters and you really just get invested in them. So yeah, I would definitely recommend these books to everyone because they're super fun. The next book that I think is underrated is Alexandria of Africa by Eric Walters. Again, I believe I've talked about this one before. I feel like, have I done a video on underrated books before? Because I feel like I've talked about all these. Anyways, it's about this super rich girl who shoplifts, and instead of being sent to juvie, she gets sent with this international charity to Kenya to do work there. And you know, that experience kind of changes her life and her outlook on life in general. And it's really interesting. I haven't read this in a few years, but I do remember it being very good. I've read it multiple times, I think, because I liked it so much. Also, this author's Canadian, and he came around to my school when I was in elementary school, and he signed the book for me. So that's very exciting. So next is the Gone series by Michael Grant. The story is basically about this town where all of a sudden one day all the people that are over the age of 18 disappear, and it's just left with kids in the town. And weird, freaky, kind of supernatural, weird, maybe not supernatural, I don't know, weird stuff starts happening anyways, and it gets weirder as the series goes on. There's parts of it that are like gross, but it's actually like genuinely a really well written series. Like there's points where I was like, oh, you're describing things too much in detail, but it was like really good. But if you're like a super squeamish person, maybe try to avoid it, but like it's not that bad, but it's not like there's certain points where it's a little much. And lastly, I want to give a shout out to Morgan Matson and all of her books. specifically The Unexpected Everything and Since You've Been Gone, because those are the only two of her books that I've read, but they're all very good. I talk about Morgan Matson all the time. She's not exactly underrated, like I know her books are pretty popular, I guess, but she doesn't get as much hype as she should, I think. And a lot of people talk about Sarah Dessen or Jandy Nelson or something like that when they're talking about contemporaries that they really love. But Morgan Matson is like the queen of summary contemporaries, okay? Her books are just so good and they don't feel weird or stereotypical or like pretentious or just too stereotypical or anything like that. All the characters are genuinely interesting. They're just fun reads, and I just want more people to read them. So once again, I'm going to shout out how much I love Morgan Matson. Also, I mean, look at the dogs on this cover. How can you go wrong with that many dogs? So it's a pretty short list, but like I said, I read a lot of the books that are overrated, as some people would say, or just the books that get a lot of hype, because I like to ride the hype train. But I do have a few little hidden gems that I like that I think more people should read, even though I feel like a lot of the books on this list were kind of more well known, but just I haven't seen a lot of hype about them. So let me know if there's any underrated books that you like, because I'm always looking for new, interesting things to read. And also let me know if you've read any of these books and if you like them as much as I do. I hope you all have a lovely week, and I hope you've all had a decent time back at school, because for me, I just finished my first week of school and it's going. It's happening. Hope you're all surviving it. Don't worry, you'll get through this year. You got through last year, you can do it again. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!